Hello, my name is Elishiva Wires, and today I will begin by talking about my children. Now, I am a stay-at-home mom of four, and all of those births have been done at home. Now, if someone were to ask me if they were all easy and that's why I chose to have them at home, I would say no, they weren't easy. But the scariest birth I had was with my oldest son, Noah. Now, when he was born, he was completely unresponsive. He did not nurse, he did not move, he was very red, and he didn't open his eyes at all. Now, it was through the experience of my midwife and her gift of dealing with babies and home births that led her to assess my son, and then we were able to take him to the emergency room. Now, had he not been assessed, sadly, he would have died. But it is through this assessment known as the Apgar score system that I owe to Dr. Virginia Woolf. It is due to her that modern medicine in neonatology and the Apgar system is credited to. Now, today I will be paying tribute to Dr. Virginia Woolf, whose advancements in neonatology and who created the Apgar system has greatly lessened the infant mortality rate in the United States. Now, the reason why this is so important is that prior to the 1952, when the Apgar system was released, doctors could not tell the difference between a stillborn baby and a baby that had trouble breathing. Without this assessment, sadly, many babies died without the proper care that they needed. And this assessment has enabled doctors to be able to see what is wrong with the babies, what parts they are lacking, whether it's color, it is whether they're breathing right. It is through this scoring system that many babies' lives has been saved. So today I will be talking about how America's infant mortality rate was very high in the late 1930s and 1940s. Then I will begin and then I will talk about how Dr. Virginia Woolf went into neonatology, and then how she developed the Apgar score system. Then I will talk about how this scoring system has greatly lessened the infant mortality rate in the United States due to the advancements that she made. To begin, America's infant mortality rate was very high. And it was high because no neonatology equipment or assessments or tests were done during this time. In fact, there really wasn't a neonatology field study at that time. There were no NICU units that we have today. None of that was available during the 1940s and 50s and prior. Now, according to the CDC's report of Vital Statistics of the United States, 1952, Volume 1, the fetal death rate in the United States was 25.6% in 1942. Now, 25.6%, as we can see right here, it's a bit backwards, is extremely high. Now, that's saying that 25.6% per 1,000 babies that are born. That is an extremely high number. So that would be like saying 256 babies that are born per 1,000 babies would have died. Now that we know that the infant mortality rate in the United States was really high, now we can move on to my second point of how Dr. Apgar was introduced into neonatology and how she developed the Apgar score system. Now, according to Changing the Face of Medicine, a publication under the U.S. National Library of Medicine, a part of the National Institute for Health, Apgar began in medicine in 1933. She was the fourth highest student in her class. Now, Dr. Apgar wanted to become a surgeon, But as she was studying under Dr. Whipple, who is known for the Whipple procedure, he suggested that because women had not done great as surgeons during this early period in the United States, that she should go into anesthesiology because the field of anesthesiology was not developed yet and it needed to be developed further. Now, she over time became the director of anesthesiology in 1946 at the Columbia University. Now, it was during this time, during her study of anesthesiology as the director, that she became interested in obstetrics or childbirth, um, and because anesthesiology was starting to be administered to help women with childbirth, that it was starting to reduce pain. But because of this, having to administer to women during childbirth, she was also surrounded by babies that were born. And it was during this time that she began to study newborns, especially newborns that were unresponsive, who, whether they were stillborn, whether they were still breathing, there was a lot of complications during the early 1950s when women would have babies. Now, she developed a system that measured the condition and viability of a new infant according to Britannica.com, and this system is called the Apgar score. Now that we know how Dr. Apgar went into neonatology from anesthesiology, and we know how she developed the Apgar score, we can move on to our third point, which brings us to how the development of the Apgar score has influenced modern neonatology, modern medicine, and how that has greatly increased America's infant mortality rate. In 1952, Dr. Apgar published in her journal was called the Evaluation of the Newborn Infant Second Report. She says that her 5-point evaluation was 5 points, which were heart rate, respiratory effort, muscle tone, reflex response, color, and it was observed and given a 0, a 1, or a 2. And all these points were added together, and after all these points were added together, then they were able to have a complete score of the baby. Now, a lower score, especially 5 or less, would show that the baby was not doing very well. Now, a score of 8 and higher, preferably 9 or 10, would show that the baby was doing very, very well. Now, the interesting thing to know about the Apgar score is that because of her invention of the Apgar score and the assessment of the lungs, the color, the body reflex, that Apgar score is actually used all throughout medicine. Doctors across fields use that Apgar score to assess all different types of patients to determine the well-being and the viability of the patient. Now, in the CDC report in 2017, the infant mortality rate dropped to 5.8%, as you can see here. Now, that is an amazing drop from 1942, where it began at 25.6%, and then now in 2017, we are at 5.8%. Now, we owe that all due to Dr. Apgar and her advancements in medicine and her advancement in neonatology. Without that, I can't imagine what the infant mortality rate would be. Now, so today I talked about how Dr. Virginia Apgar developed the Apgar score and how that score greatly lessened infant mortality rate in the United States. I talked about how the infant mortality rate in the United States was really high in the 1940s, And then I talked about how Dr. Virginia Apgar, while she wanted to become a surgeon, she was pushed into anesthesiology, which led her into neonatology, and then she developed the Apgar score. Then finally, I talked about how that Apgar score system greatly influenced modern medicine, modern neonatology, and how that scoring system greatly dropped the infant mortality rate in the United States. It's hard to imagine I can't imagine what modern medicine would be like, or neonatology, or the fact that if the Apgar score hadn't been invented, I can't imagine what I would have done or not have done in the story of my oldest son, Noah.